Cheers to the people not nailing it. Pour a little Pinot, put some faith in it. Put it out on the table, no one left behind. It's you, it's me, it's us. Then Kristen, we rust. Oh, oh, hey, hey. Oh, oh, hey, hey. Oh, oh, hey, hey. Oh, oh, in Kristen, we brust.
What up, soulmates? It's me, and I love you so much. I recorded this episode a while back after Overconsumption came out. Since then, my world has been rocked. I'm not going to lie, friends. The compound loss episode has gained yet another perspective and angel as my dad passed away on July 19th. And so I have been MIA. So I have this saved episode I am putting out for you today. We're going to talk a lot in the upcoming weeks about what is gained and lost, and also a little something I talk about in this episode, breadcrumbs. So there's going to be a lot of good, positive movement, but I wanted to thank you for your grace and your love and your loyalty as I move through uncharted territory of one of the biggest, well, I would venture to say probably the biggest loss to date for me. If you have lost a parent, I would like to take this moment just to say my heart is with you. This episode is actually upbeat, but it's probably a good probability I'm going to cry in the intro. If you have lost a parent, my heart is with you. It is one of the hardest, strangest, biggest, unavoidable pains and one of the largest loads of grief I've ever dealt with. So if you know that territory, my heart is with you. I am sorry that you know it, and I love you. This episode, on a happier note, is going to be good. You're going to like it. I went in reverse. I'm telling you all the reasons. Less is the new black. I'm making it quick because you busy. You busy, girl. You don't have time for me blabbing on about everything. So this is it from me to you. Another episode because I like you, and I like it when we do life together. Okay. Off to the episode.
In Kristen, we brust.
Hi, friends. It's me. An overwhelming response to overconsumption. So I figured I would take a couple of minutes just to chat with you about a couple of things. So one, y'all felt it to your core. It's like, why is having stuff the norm, and why is more everything when it's really not, when more is less? So we made less is the new black. If you missed the last episode, we just talked a lot about how we intake so many things. We're over consuming calories, we're over consuming news, we're over consuming commitments, the calendar, kind of like how we left the 2020 pace and went right back in. Everything was opened up and the world was back, and we were just expected to be okay with that. A lot of us, I think, had really sought after and achieved a really calm pace of life in 2020. And some of the things with 2020 needed to go for sure. But a couple of the things that I was holding on tight to was this more lax schedule, more intentionality when it came to hanging out with people, just those kinds of things. So speaking of intentionality, this one is live from my disaster of a closet and overconsumption. It's the buy, swipe. And if y'all have never followed me on Instagram, kristen.brust is where you find me. Brust rhymes with trust and spelled like it with a B. But Well Dressed Nashville is something that I support pretty often. Actually, they support me if I was just being honest. So it is a group here. Bonnie heads it up. She's incredible. She has the eye for it. It's a really well done consignment sale. So I'm sitting on a pile of clothes that will hopefully make its way to Well Dressed Nashville. And it is my anti-overconsumption pledge here and for my accountability to actually do that. So I wanted to touch on a couple of things really quickly. I am going to continue to try to make these podcasts smaller. We've talked about that in smaller or shorter. I don't know, mom dementia. But in the past, we've talked about how the shorter podcasts work well in our mom schedule. So like a 20-minute is a commute, or it's getting ready in the morning, or it's a walk on a treadmill or whatever. So I like to meet you wherever you are. I like to love on you extra hard. I like to tie it up with a bow, which is our borrowed hope. If you're new here, borrowed hope is at the end of every episode. I don't like the word homework. Nobody does. We all have an allergy to it. And so it's kind of our way of just saying here's something, here's a trinket or a to-do or something that we can take away and work on until we're together again. So I'm trying to keep these a little bit smaller and more consumable for my business women, my busy moms, just anybody, because I think it's a little better to have consolidated information and have it fast, and then you can go about your day. So the overconsumption episode was incredibly successful, and I had actually recorded this podcast before, and I'm redoing it because I saw a need to touch on a couple of things. One, you were relieved. When less became the new black, you were really relieved. And I think that's really special and worth noting. Two, I really want to speak into you a little bit. This may just be too much, but I actually don't care. I do care, but I think it's just, I feel the pull to say it. So we'll say it because that's how this works here. You are incredible as you are by yourself, an incredible human. So you need to hear that. If you love fashion, I love it. I want to drink it with a straw. It amazes me. It is fun for me. It's an expression. It's a love language. It's a creativity. It's everything. I encourage you to always create your own style. I think it's incredible. And so I would challenge that if you're adopting other people's style on Instagram and you're swiping up, there are things that you can certainly do there that I think are fun and pieces you can tie in. I mean, I've got my go-tos that I love to follow that are just fun for me, but I also would challenge you to really take some time, and maybe this will end up being our borrowed hope actually, but really take some time to know what your own style is and what makes you happy, and pay close attention to something you wear. If you wear something and you love it, this is a good thing. This is fun. Let's indulge it. You don't have to buy it every color. Girl, I already know what you're doing. Nope. Get out of the web browser. Out. Okay. But you do want to lean into that a little bit. What feels fun to you? What do you feel comfortable in? What do you feel sassy in? So I would encourage you to hone in on your style, and I would encourage you then to leave all the other BS behind. If you are not a girl that likes to dress like a boy, cool. Let's start donating. If you are a girl that loves to wear tulle. I'm touching on two things. I love to wear tulle and I love to dress like a boy. So I don't really know who or what that is, but that's my own funky business and I love it. So all I'm saying is let's try to identify your style. You don't have to know it right away, but start to just really pay attention to what feels good on you. What do you like? What fabrics are good to you? And that will start to help you eliminate the consumption because you will know what's not for you. And you'll be able to forward on those links of things that you see that remind you of your other friends. And so that is one thing that I will say. And it will also help you consume less because you're like, nah, this isn't me. I love to buy things for my friends. That's their style. I also love to say, hey girl, I saw this and thought of you and I think you need this. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, because these are all good homeworks for you to do, but also will tie into you consuming less because you're going to be able to identify things more clearly, and clarity is a gift. Am I right? I'm right. So the second thing that I thought was pretty important was the ability to trust your gut. So when we talked in overconsumption about the news and we talked about what you're consuming, what you're reading, what you're hearing, who you're trusting, all of those things, I would encourage you to do two things. There's only one place that I know for sure has all the truths of all truths, and that's the Bible. So if you are a new person to the Bible, don't be overwhelmed. I still can't memorize verses, and I can hardly remember the Bible addresses for them. The addresses, I'm talking they're on a street. It's John 10:10 is a go-to because it's life and life abundant, and that is incredible, and that's just something that resonates well with me. But there's a lot of other ones I don't remember. So don't be overwhelmed by the Bible people. Never be overwhelmed by the Bible people. I'm talking about those Christians out there saying if you don't know it, then you're not no. Nope, not my God and not our Jesus. Who's with me? So if you feel like you need a real truth and you feel like the world is noisy, I just watched all of you raise your hands, you should hunker in the Bible. I do something called my morning still, and we've talked about it on here before, but I like to just reiterate because I think sometimes the practice gets lost. It gets lost for me too, and I'm the one that invented it. So there's that. In the morning, I sit with the Bible, my favorite devotional or devotionals. I also sit with a book called, I think it's called The Language of Letting Go. I can link it if y'all are interested, but it is I think that one is specifically for adult children of alcoholics or codependency or something, but it's a beautifully written book that hits home with me a lot too. So I kind of just take this like tiny bit of time in the morning and I try to carve out it's fuel for me. So I typically, let's say we live in a world where I actually get my morning still. Fantasize with me as I take you into the deep, dark vision of having moments for yourself. In my morning still, I would make warm lemon water. That's my favorite. Helps with your digestion. Not super hot, just like warm and cozy. Also feels good on your hands. Sometimes I put on warm socks when I wake up because I don't like cold feet. And I just shuffle into the kitchen. Typically, I keep all of these devotionals on my countertop. And when people ask why there's books on the counter, I say, because these books feed me more than anything in my pantry for the most part. So I do this morning still. It's warm lemon water. I shuffle in. I'm as cozy as I can be. I don't care if this outfit makes me look like I'm one of those kids in 3rd grade getting bundled up to go out to the snow. And my mom is throwing on all the layers because she forgot to order snow pants. You know the look. That's kind of how it looks when I'm shuffling. So I shuffle in. I'm sipping warm lemon water and I go through the devotional. And then typically in the devotional that I have that I'm obsessed with, it's Savor. If you all have never, if you follow me, you see me post it almost every morning or a lot of times. And it's beautiful. And it has a Bible verse at the top. And so that kind of just leads me onto this, I just kind of let the Spirit and God just kind of move me into what I'll read next. So I will turn my Bible open to that part. And then I just kind of read in and all around it. I do have the Bible app, YouVersion. If you've not heard of that, is an incredible app where you can literally, you're clicks away from comparing the Bible verses, into New Living Translation, and there's so many good ways. And so some of those verses become really sacred. I love, my grandma was Catholic, and so it's fun for me to get into YouVersion because I can dig into this really Catholic old school language. There's a lot of that, what it feels like to me. It's not a Catholic interpretation, but that is just what it reminds me of. And then you can translate quickly into something that's more layman's terms, which I think is more digestible for a lot of people. So that would be my encouragement for your morning still. And I like to just have a couple of minutes where I just say God be with me today, go before me today, thank you in advance for, who doesn't love a thanks in advance? That was such a power move when I was in corporate America, by the way. I live for thanks in advance. Hey, Patty, thanks in advance for doing this. Okay, XOXO. Just assuming it will be done. And it's such a power move. Anyway, so I thank God for my blessings. I make a gratitude list some mornings when I need it. I just want you to have this kind of arsenal of what you could do in a morning still. And then I would just encourage you to feed your soul with whatever you need to be fed. Some mornings I'm as grateful as I can be when I open my eyes. And so the act of a gratitude journal is incredible. But if I only get 2 minutes, I'm not going to do that because I feel grateful enough. So I'm digging into the word, or I'm digging into devotional, or whatever the case may be. That is one thing I think is important. So when we talked about overconsumption and we talked about overconsuming news and all the things, I think that just you taking time to get your appetite filled with real truths, those are some places I would lead you to find truth. The other thing that is really precious and is lost in our society, because society, news, media, everyone likes us to feel sheep-like. They like us to follow. I think that followers and leaders, a good balance of both is great because we don't need a nation full of leaders. It would be kind of time-consuming. It would be a big mess. I love and appreciate how everybody melts into this melting pot and does, contributes what they contribute. But I will say this. I really think it matters a lot to trust yourself. And one thing that kind of was this resounding review and feedback I was getting from the Overconsumption podcast and why I had to redo this one was because it feels like to me, you're not trusting yourself enough. We're being easily swayed by people. I am a testimonial shopper. Do not get me wrong. I don't know if there's any other Capricorns listening. I sure hope so because I really enjoy our people. But one of the things, if you look up traits of a Capricorn, is that we live for quality craftsmanship, and they are not wrong. Give me a good sweater. Give me an amazing piece of furniture that lasts the test of time. Like, you just talk dirty to me about quality and less plywood and more like bolts and like thick pieces of cedar or whatever. I know I'm a lot. But I love you a lot. So you're just going to have to stay with me. Okay. Please don't break up. I know there's like a gazillion podcasts. I'm just trying to be one of them on your rotation. I love you. Anyway, so quality craftsmanship matters. And I really feel like, I lose my thought because I go off on these like tangents. But what I do know for certain is that you already have a sense of knowing in your belly. And I think the noise of what happens with the influencing world, with social media, with the news, with everything, is that we start to go away from this beautiful gift we've been given. The most, I would honestly, besides the gift of love, and I mean like love, the feeling, not love my daughter, but she has blessed the world indeed, my sweet little world changer. The gift of love is probably one of the biggest, or the biggest, but then this gift of discernment is a sacred, secret gift that I feel goes unnurtured, and I don't think it gets enough attention a lot of times. So I really feel like you have a discernment in you. You know what's right. You know what's wrong. You know what decision to make, but the noise is what gets you distracted. So if I could encourage anything, it would be to really sharpen that discernment. And I'm kind of leading you in a self-care circle because that morning still will do a lot for that too. It will just plug you in almost to like the Holy Spirit, to the Lord, to feeling the presence of Jesus around you, and just make you feel tied to something, anchored in something. And in a world like today, especially, I think that is more important than ever. So your discernment is that gut feeling. A girlfriend of mine and I, we worked for a record label here in Nashville. And if you're unfamiliar with how Nashville operates during CMA week is typically the first week in November, and all of our radio friends come into town, and they do this kind of like speed dating setup in a big ballroom at the convention center or wherever. And they're in little booths, and they set them up, all the morning shows, and they just get content. They're just like, you're bringing artists around. So like my job at the label at the time was to bring my artists through these radio remotes is what they call them. But it's essentially where every radio station is just interviewing, getting content, getting sound bites, getting those like, hey, you're listening to WSIX, like those kinds of things. If y'all have ever heard, like, I'm going to give a shout out to W4 Country in this one, but that's where I grew up in my radio career. So Q104 in Kansas City, like whenever they're saying those things, that's usually where they're getting those sound bites. Sometimes, other times, like, listen, I'm not going to school you on the business. That's not what this podcast is about, but I'm getting somewhere, promise. So we go to these radio remotes, and those start really, really early. So I had been with my girlfriend we had been working all day, and she was like, listen, I have this one last radio guy I have to meet. He's at this bar on Broadway, and I just really need to go meet him. And I said, I will go with you, because this is like a no soul sister left behind. But we deserve a dirty martini like no one has deserved a dirty martini in their lives. And so if you can commit to an ice cold, straight up dirty martini, often with blue cheese olives, I'm going to talk dirty too. I hope you guys aren't listening to this at like 10 a.m. I will do the martini, and then I will go meet your radio guy. But like, if anybody deserves a break, it's you and I. We've been doing this since 6:30 a.m. It's now 10:30 p.m. We've been on our feet. We've been socializing. We forgot to eat. We have been working for the machine. So we get a dirty martini, and we talk extensively that night about, just like taking a deep breath. And we talked about how I essentially said to her that my slogan for all of life had been that your gut is God's urge. So whenever your gut says something, you have to trust it, because it is like, it's God speaking to you, a truth or a direction or a choice that needs to be made or something. But like, you have to trust it. And that, my friends, is discernment. So we have this beautiful talk. We get up, we walk out of the Palm in Nashville, we hang a right, and then we hang another right on Broadway. And we walk up the stairs to the second level of what was then a karaoke bar called the Troubadour, where I had no business being region-wise, like I was allowed to be there, but I'm just saying it was a West Coast hosted event, and I was not a West Coast representative. I was a middle of the country, straight down the middle, basically from Minneapolis to Mexico was my territory. And my girlfriend actually was a Northeast person, so she didn't really need to be there either. But this one magic radio guy, Brian Thomas, are you listening? Where are you, BT? Was there, and he was there with my now husband. And if I had not listened to my discernment and said, listen, we will do this. If we had not talked about your gut being God's urge, if we had not taken a moment, we would have missed them. We would have gotten there early. We would have left early. We would have missed them. Anyways, you have to trust your discernment. You have to trust this. And in my next episode, I'm going to talk to you about a new adventure. I'm really excited for you to be like, you're going to be in. You're going to be like, this is actually fun. This is a perspective shift. So I'm leading you up. Stay with me, sister friend or guy friend or whoever you are listening, trusting your discernment because it leads you to good things. It led me to a husband. Which then led me to 2 babies. Earthside, 1 in heaven, and all of that because I truly have believed and still believe that your gut is God's urge. So if you can practice sharpening your skills of discernment, I think you will be pleasantly surprised how much clarity you get on a daily basis with every decision, from how you like your eggs to any Runaway Bride fans. Should you work out today? Should you take the promotion? What car you should get? What husband you should pick? All of the things. I just think the sharper your discernment skill and the muscle memory for discernment, the happier, the more clear, the more concise, the more efficient, the more joyful your life will be. So essentially what I'm saying to you is we've done this in reverse. I told you don't buy anything, get rid of everything. Now I'm telling you why. But what I'm saying to you is that everything that is extra in your life, whether it is a noisy relative, a noisy boyfriend, I was going to say a noisy child, but they're just kind of all noisy, so I don't know what you're going to do about that. You could get breaks in a babysitter, so we'll put that in, noisy child. But all of these things end up distracting you from clarity, joy, trusting your gut, eating well. They're just all they're all adding to this fog, which is I'm not saying be a minimalist. I can't be. I need more than 1 spatula. That matters to me. You know your things, but there's also things that you have overconsumed that you don't care about. And so let's start there. Let's let those go. Let's purge that closet emotionally, relationship wise, your actual closet. If you saw where I'm sitting, you'd be like, this girl's a train wreck. But I just really do feel like you felt so tied to overconsumption that I think there's room for you to grow quickly, because if that was attractive to you, then you're already on a different path. So that is really the basis of it. Next week's episode is a lot about, should I tell you guys? I always wonder whether to tease it or not. It's a new theory I have. It is not keto friendly. Just kidding. It has nothing to do with it. But it has everything to do with, are you ready? Breadcrumbs. I know. Seems weird. But I have a new lease on life. Is that what they say? Does that really fit here? Anybody? I do have a new view on life, or a new perspective on life. And I think that you will really enjoy breadcrumbs. I think that's all I should say for now. So hopefully you're not gluten intolerant, because it's going to be a hard one for you to listen to. Totally kidding. See what I did there? I love you immensely. Your borrowed hope for this week is to love on yourself. You hear me? Take that morning still, whatever it means to you, whatever it means to you, I almost said whatever it means to me. No, that's okay too. Pour into yourself a little bit, whatever that is. If it's getting up and running a mile, if it's getting up before your house wakes up to get 2 minutes of silence. And if I am honest, that morning still is sometimes 45 seconds before the tiny Kardashians I work for free wake up and they just start swarming around me. Totally fine. It's sometimes not still, and that's okay too. But get your vitamin in. I wanted to say vitamin D for discernment. I don't know why, but I think that's probably lame. Anyways, start with 2 minutes and then start expanding it to 10 minutes. I mean, the goal for me one day, I will have 60 minutes of morning still a day. That is my goal. And right now it's more like 5, sometimes 7, sometimes, again, 45 seconds. So that's your borrowed hope. Love on yourself. Pour into yourself. Make and create visual, physical room for you to breathe in the clarity. Cluttered house, cluttered mind is a real thing. Clear it out. But you have to know why you're clearing it out. And I think when you can trust that the Lord will provide for you, you can loosen your grip on a lot of like material things you're probably holding on to that don't really matter to you anymore, because it's just stuff, friends, and you can't take the stuff with you. I love you so much. I'm excited for our non-keto, gluten intolerant talk about breadcrumbs, and I hope you have the best day ever. Cool? Cool. See you next week.
In Kristen we breast.